You're a disappointment to this family. My father's words cut through the air of our pristine suburban home. I stood there, clutching my high school diploma, still wearing my graduation gown. Get out. If you won't live up to our standards, you don't deserve to be here. My name is Sarah Anderson, and at 18, I watched my parents choose my sister's mediocrity over my achievements. While I graduated with a 4.0 GPA and an acceptance to a prestigious university, my sister Amanda was on her third attempt at community college, more focused on planning her wedding to her high school boyfriend than building a future. But Dad, I got a full scholarship too. I started only to be cut off by my mother's sharp voice. Enough, your sister is getting married. She needs our support right now. If you can't be happy for her and stop showing off, then maybe your father is right. I looked around the living room, taking in the wedding magazines scattered across the coffee table, the giant mood board for Amanda's perfect day dominating one wall. My acceptance letter to Boston University, which I had proudly displayed on the fridge, had been buried under wedding venue brochures. That night, I packed everything I could fit into my used Honda Civic, the car I had bought with money saved from 3 years of part-time jobs. As I drove away from the only home I ever known, I caught a glimpse of Amanda in my rearview mirror, standing in the doorway with that familiar smirk on her face. "Don't worry," she had whispered as I passed her. "I'll take good care of Mom and Dad's money." I hadn't known then how prophetic those words would be. 15 years passed like scenes in a movie, while my parents poured hundreds of thousands into Amanda's first wedding. A lavish affair with ice sculptures and Dove releases, I worked my way through college, taking extra shifts at a coffee shop to afford textbooks. When her first marriage ended after 8 months, her husband caught her with his best man. They funded her fresh start, a luxury condo in the city. I graduated summa cum laude, landed a job at a top consulting firm, and started climbing the corporate ladder. Meanwhile, Amanda's second wedding, to said best man, cost even more than the first. "Your sister needs this," Mom would say during our increasingly rare phone calls. "She's been through so much." That marriage lasted 14 months. The divorce settlement, which my parents also paid for, drained their retirement fund. But still, they supported her, funding her finding herself trips to Europe, her yoga teacher training in Bali, which she never completed, and finally, her third wedding to a spiritual healer who convinced her to invest in his crystal healing center. Through it all, I kept my head down and focused on building my own life. I went from entry-level consultant to senior manager, then director, and finally, at 33, became the youngest partner in my firm's history. I bought my own home, invested wisely, and created the stability I had always craved. Then came the call. I was in my office, reviewing quarterly projections, when my phone lit up with my father's number. I almost didn't answer. Our last conversation, 3 years ago at Amanda's third wedding, had ended with him telling me I was too focused on money when I questioned the wisdom of Amanda's new husband's investment scheme. But something made me pick up. "Sarah?" My father's voice sounded older, frailer than I remembered. "We need your help." I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the city skyline from my corner office. "What's wrong?" "It's everything. The Crystal Healing Center. Amanda's husband, he took everything. Our savings, our retirement, even a second mortgage on the house. Then he left her for his yoga instructor. We're about to lose the house, and Amanda's moving back home. She's devastated." I closed my eyes, remembering the night of my graduation, the hurt, the rejection, the cruel words. "That sounds difficult," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "Please, Sarah, you're good with money. You've always been responsible. We need your help." The irony almost made me laugh. After years of being the family disappointment, suddenly my financial acumen was valuable. I thought about the college years I spent working double shifts, the nights I cried myself to sleep in my tiny studio apartment, the holidays I spent alone because I couldn't afford to travel home. Not that I was particularly welcome. "How much?" I asked. $300,000, he said quietly, "just to keep the house and settle Amanda's debts. She's in a very fragile state right now." 300,000, the exact amount I calculated they'd spent on Amanda's 3 weddings. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor. "I see," I said, my voice calm. "And what makes you think I have that kind of money?" "Well, you're a partner now. Your mother saw the article about your promotion in the Business Journal. And you've always been so careful with money. Careful. That's what they called it when I worked through college. Careful when I took the bus instead of accepting their help with a car, help they readily gave Amanda. Careful when I missed family vacations because I was working overtime to build my career. I am careful with money, I agreed. That's why I have it, and that's why I won't be giving it away. But we're family, my father protested, his voice rising. After everything we've done, everything you've done. I cut him off, years of pent-up emotion finally breaking through my professional composure. Like kicking me out on my high school graduation day, like spending my college fund on Amanda's first wedding, like telling me I was a disappointment while funding her repeated failures. That's not fair, he stammered. Your sister needed. No, I interrupted. What she needed was boundaries. What she needed was to learn responsibility. What I needed was parents who valued achievement over drama, who supported hard work over endless second chances. But that's not what any of us got, is it? The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Sarah, please, he finally said, his voice breaking. We don't know what else to do. I looked at the framed article on my wall. Rising star. Sarah Anderson becomes youngest partner at Maxwell Consulting. Next to it was my diploma, the one I clutched that night 15 years ago. Actually, I said, I do have a solution. You'll help. The hope in his voice was palpable. Not with money, I clarified. But I can offer Amanda a job. Entry-level position in our accounting department. She'll need to complete a certification course first, which I'll pay for, and she'll start at the bottom like everyone else. She'll learn responsibility, financial management, and the value of hard work. A job? He sounded bewildered. But she's not good with numbers. She'll learn, I said firmly. That's what people do when they have no other choice. When they're kicked out of their comfort zone and forced to stand on their own 2 feet. I should know. Another long silence followed. And the house? He finally asked. Sell it, I said. Use the equity to rent something smaller, more manageable. Start over, like I had to. Sometimes hitting bottom is the best thing that can happen to someone. It was for me. I could hear muffled voices in the background, my mother probably, and Amanda's distinctive wail. I'll have my assistant email over the details about the certification course, I continued. If Amanda's interested, she can start next month. If not, I'm sure you'll figure something out. You always have before. As I hung up the phone, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For years, I carried the pain of their rejection, the anger at their unfairness. But now, sitting in my office, surrounded by the fruits of my own labor, I realized something. Being kicked out was the best thing they ever did for me. It taught me self-reliance, determination, and the value of hard work. It showed me that success isn't given, it's earned. And most importantly, it taught me that sometimes the family you create for yourself, through friendships, mentorship, and professional relationships, is stronger than the one you're born into. My phone buzzed again. A text from Amanda. How dare you? A job? Do you know how humiliating that would be? I smiled, remembering the scared 18-year-old girl in a graduation gown, wondering how she'd survive on her own. That girl had done more than survive, she'd thrived. Actually, I texted back, I do know, that's why I'm offering. Sometimes humility is the first step towards success. I turned back to my quarterly projections, but my mind was already spinning with plans. If Amanda accepted the job offer, I would make sure she received no special treatment. She would learn, as I had, the satisfaction of earning her own way. And if she didn't? Well, that would be her choice to make, just as my parents had made theirs 15 years ago, on what should have been one of the proudest days of my life. The view from my office seemed a little brighter that afternoon, the city sprawling out before me like a testament to what determination and hard work could achieve. Sometimes I realized the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising so far above your past that it can't touch you anymore. My assistant poked her head in. Ms. Anderson, your 3 o'clock is here. I straightened my blazer and stood up. Time to get back to work. After all, success is the best revenge, and I had more success to build. 3 days after my father's desperate phone call, I received an unexpected visit at my office. I was reviewing resumes for the entry-level position I'd offered Amanda when my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Ms. Anderson, your mother is here to see you. I paused, my hand hovering over the stack of applications. In 15 years, my mother had never once visited my office. Send her in. She looked smaller than I remembered. Her once perfect blonde hair now streaked with gray. Her designer clothes replaced by something more modest. The confidence that had once radiated from her was dimmed, replaced by a nervous energy as she stood in my doorway. "Sarah," she said softly, clutching her purse like a shield. "Your office is impressive." "Thank you," I replied, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. "Please sit." She perched on the edge of the seat, looking around at the awards on my walls, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the view of the city I'd conquered on my own. I wondered if she was remembering the night they threw me out, if she had ever imagined I'd end up here. "I came about Amanda," she started, then stopped, struggling with her words. "About the job offer." "What about it?" "She's considering it." My mother twisted her hands in her lap. "But she's worried. She's never had a real job before, never had to." "Work?" I supplied, raising an eyebrow. "That's rather the point. It's just," my mother continued, "couldn't you start her somewhere higher up? With her people skills, she could be in client relations or—" "No," I cut her off firmly. "If Amanda wants this opportunity, she starts at the bottom. Just like I did, just like everyone else here did. But she's family. Exactly why she needs to prove herself even more." I leaned forward, meeting my mother's gaze. "Do you know what people would say if I gave my sister preferential treatment? Do you know how hard I've worked to build my reputation here?" My mother fell silent, her eyes dropping to her lap. For the first time, I wondered if she was actually seeing me not as the daughter who had disappointed her, but as the successful businesswoman I'd become. "Your father and I," she began, then paused. "We've been doing a lot of thinking. About everything. Everything. The night of your graduation, the weddings, all the money she swallowed hard. "We got it wrong, didn't we, with both of you?" I sat back in my chair, studying her face. In all these years, this was the closest she'd ever come to an apology. "Yes," I said simply, "you did. We thought we were helping Amanda by supporting her, by never letting her fail. Instead, she gestured helplessly. "And you? We thought being hard on you would push you to need us more, to stay close to home. Instead, we push you away completely." I thought about the lonely nights in college, the holidays spent working while my classmates went home to loving families. "You did more than push me away, Mom. You threw me away." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know, and watching you now, seeing what you've built, I'm so ashamed." Part of me wanted to comfort her, to say it was all okay, but that would be another lie in a family built on lies and enabling behavior. "Good," I said firmly. "Use that shame. Let it guide you to do better." She looked up, startled by my directness. "If Amanda takes this job," I continued, "she'll need boundaries, real ones. No more bailouts, no more enabling. She'll need to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. "Like you did," my mother whispered. "Yes, and it will be hard, for her and for you. There will be tears, tantrums, accusations. She'll try every manipulation trick that's worked in the past. The question is, are you strong enough to resist?" My mother straightened in her chair, something of her old strength returning. "We don't have a choice anymore. The money's gone. Everything we saved, everything we inherited. It's all gone." "There's always a choice," I corrected her. "You could remortgage your house again, borrow from friends, drain what's left of your retirement. You could keep enabling her until there's nothing left, or you could choose to change." She was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the city skyline. "How did you do it?" she finally asked. "How did you become so strong?" "You gave me no choice," I replied honestly. "The night you kicked me out, you took away every safety net I had. I had to become strong or break. I chose not to break." My mother stood up suddenly, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "I should go. But Sarah, thank you. For the job offer, for being willing to help at all after everything." "I'm not doing it for you," I said. "Or even for Amanda, really. I'm doing it because sometimes people need to hit rock bottom before they can start climbing up. I just hope she takes the opportunity." As my mother reached the door, she turned back. "I saw the article about your promotion. I had kept it. Put it in the family album next to Amanda's wedding photos. I know it's too little, too late, but I'm proud of you, Sarah. So proud." After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about strength and weakness, about choices and consequences. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Fine, I'll take this stupid job, but don't think this makes us even. I smiled, remembering my own first job, the humility of starting at the bottom. It's not about getting even, I texted back. It's about getting better. That evening, as I drove home to my peaceful house in the suburbs, so different from the chaos of my parents' home, I thought about cycles and how hard they are to break. My parents had created a dynamic where one daughter was always the star and the other the disappointment. Now those roles had reversed, but the pattern remained. Maybe it was time to break the pattern completely, not by winning or getting even, but by showing Amanda a different way, by being the sister I'd needed when I was 18 and alone. But first she would need to learn the lessons I'd learned the hard way. And this time, there would be no shortcuts, no easy escapes. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them struggle, to let them fail, to let them learn. After all, that's how butterflies get strong enough to fly, by fighting their way out of the cocoon on their own. Amanda's first day at work was exactly what I expected. She showed up 20 minutes late, wearing an outfit more suited to a nightclub than an office, already complaining about the early start time. This is ridiculous, she huffed, following the HR manager who was showing her to her cubicle. I can't believe you're making me start at 8 a.m. Don't you know I'm not a morning person? I watched from my office as she settled in, immediately pulling out her phone and scrolling through social media. Part of me wanted to march down there and set her straight, but I knew this was a lesson she needed to learn on her own. By lunchtime, my email was flooded with complaints from her supervisor. Amanda had refused to attend the training session, claiming she already knew how to use a computer. She had taken a 2-hour lunch break without telling anyone, and when confronted, she burst into tears and accused everyone of bullying her. Classic Amanda tactics, the same ones that had worked on our parents for years. But this wasn't our parents' house, and I wasn't going to enable her behavior. When she stormed into my office at 3 p.m., demanding to speak to me, I was ready. This is harassment, she declared, throwing herself into the chair across from my desk. They're treating me like I'm stupid, making me do data entry like some kind of robot. I looked up from my computer calmly. That's the job you agreed to take, Amanda. Entry level means starting at the beginning. But I'm your sister. You can't seriously expect me to work like a normal person. Actually, I expect you to work harder than a normal person, I replied, because you have more to prove. Her face crumpled, tears threatening to spill. You're just doing this to humiliate me, to get back at me for all those years when Mom and Dad preferred me. No, I said quietly. I'm doing this because someone finally needs to show you what real life is like. The world doesn't care that you're pretty or charming, or that our parents think you're special. The world cares about what you can do, what you can contribute. I hate you, she spat, standing up so quickly her chair wobbled. You think you're so much better than me just because you have this fancy office and this important job. But at least I know how to be happy. I thought about her 3 failed marriages, her empty bank account, her string of unfinished projects and abandoned dreams. Do you, Amanda? Are you really happy? Something flickered in her eyes, doubt, maybe, or the first glimmer of self-awareness. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by her usual defensive anger. I quit, she announced dramatically. I'd rather be homeless than work for my stuck-up sister. That's your choice, I said, turning back to my computer. But before you go, you should know, Mom and Dad have agreed not to take you back in if you quit. That was part of our arrangement. She froze halfway to the door. What? They understand now that helping you means letting you face consequences. So if you quit, you're on your own. No more safety net. For the first time in her life, Amanda looked truly scared. But where would I go? That's something you'll have to figure out, just like I had to figure it out at 18. She stood there for a long moment, her hand on the doorknob, her shoulders shaking slightly. Finally, she turned back to me. I don't know how to do this, she whispered, and for the first time, I heard real vulnerability in her voice. I don't know how to be normal. I know, I said, softening slightly. That's why I'm giving you this chance. Not to punish you, but to teach you. I don't even know how to use Excel, she admitted, sinking back into the chair. Everyone else seems to just know things. They know things because they learned, I explained. Just like you can learn. But you have to be willing to start at the beginning, to admit what you don't know, to accept help. She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara. Will you help me? No, I said firmly, watching her face fall. But I'll make sure you have access to the same resources and opportunities as everyone else. The rest is up to you. To my surprise, she nodded slowly. I guess I should go apologize to my supervisor. That would be a good start. As she stood to leave, looking smaller and younger without her usual bravado, she paused. Sarah, that night, when they kicked you out, I was awful to you. I thought it was funny, watching you pack your car in the dark. I never thought. You never thought you'd end up needing help from the sister you laughed at. Yeah, she said quietly. I'm sorry, not just for that night, but for everything. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw past the makeup and designer clothes to the scared woman underneath. Prove it, I said simply. Not with words, but with actions. Show me you can change. She straightened her shoulders, smoothed her skirt, and nodded once before walking out. Through my office window, I watched her return to her cubicle, sit down, and open the Excel tutorial that had been assigned that morning. It was a small step, but sometimes small steps are the beginning of the longest journeys. That evening my father called. Amanda told us about today, he said, his voice gruff. Said you were tough but fair. Did she also tell you she tried to quit? Yes, he sighed, but she said you helped her understand why she needs to stay. That's more than we ever managed. Sometimes love means being tough, I said, echoing words he'd once used to justify kicking me out. Isn't that what you taught me? The silence on the other end of the line spoke volumes. 6 months passed like turning pages in a book. Each day brought new challenges, small victories, and gradual changes that added up to something remarkable. Amanda surprised everyone, perhaps even herself, by not just surviving but actually thriving in her new role. The transformation wasn't immediate or easy. There were tears, tantrums, and moments of defeat, but slowly, steadily, she began to change. I watched from a distance as she learned to take criticism, show up on time, and ask for help when she needed it instead of expecting special treatment. Her supervisor's weekly reports shifted from complaints to cautious praise. Amanda's showing real potential, he told me during our quarterly review. She's not just learning the technical skills. She's developing a work ethic I honestly didn't think she had in her. Then came the day that changed everything. I was working late, most of the office already empty when I heard a knock on my door. Amanda stood there, holding a stack of reports, her face glowing with an unfamiliar pride. I did it, she announced, placing the papers on my desk. I completed the certification course. All on my own. I picked up the certificate on top of the stack, noting the high marks. Congratulations, I said, genuinely impressed. This couldn't have been easy. It wasn't, she admitted, sinking into the chair across from me. There were so many times I wanted to quit, to run back to mom and dad, to find some easy way out. But, she paused, meeting my eyes. I kept thinking about you, about how you did everything the hard way and came out stronger. I felt something shift between us, like a wall crumbling brick by brick. And how does it feel? I asked. Doing things the hard way? Terrifying. Exhausting. But also, she smiled, a real smile without her usual artifice. Amazing. I never knew I could be proud of myself like this. That weekend, our parents invited us both to dinner, the first time we'd all been together since Amanda started working for me. They had downsized to a modest apartment, their life of luxury stripped away by circumstances and choices. But somehow, they seemed more genuine, more present than they'd been in their big house with all its pretenses. Mom had cooked instead of ordering in, and Dad had traded his designer suits for comfortable casual wear. As we sat around their small dining table, I noticed something else had changed, the way they looked at both of us, with equal pride and equal love. We've been doing a lot of thinking, Dad said as Mom served dessert, a homemade cake rather than their usual gourmet pastries. About the past, about the mistakes we made. Dad, Amanda started, but he held up his hand. Let me finish. We thought we were showing love by protecting Amanda from consequences and pushing Sarah to be stronger. Instead, we created a mess that hurt both our daughters in different ways. Mom reached across the table, taking one of my hands and one of Amanda's. We can't undo the past, she said softly. We can't give Sarah back her teenage years or take away the enabling that make things harder for Amanda. But we can do better now. I looked at my sister, seeing in her eyes the same emotion I felt, a mixture of healing and hope. We all can, I said. After dinner, Amanda and I took a walk around their new neighborhood. The night was cool, stars peeking through the city's light pollution. You know what's weird? She said, breaking our comfortable silence. I always thought you were the unlucky one. Getting kicked out, having to work so hard, never getting the support I got. But really, you were the lucky one. You got to become your own person. It wasn't luck, I corrected her. It was necessity. And now you're doing the same thing. She nodded, kicking a pebble along the sidewalk. I got a call from Derek yesterday, she said, referring to her third ex-husband. He wanted to get back together. Said he had a new investment opportunity. And I told him no. Said I was done with shortcuts and schemes. That I had a real job now, a future I was building myself. She grinned. Then I hung up and treated myself to lunch with the money I earned. I felt a surge of pride, not just in her, but in both of us. We'd broken the cycle our parents created, found our way back to being sisters instead of rivals. The following Monday, I called Amanda into my office. Your supervisor tells me you're ready for more responsibility, I said, sliding a folder across my desk. There's an assistant manager position opening up in the accounting department. You'd have to interview like everyone else, prove you deserve it. No special treatment. Are you interested? She picked up the folder, her hands steady, her expression serious. Yes, she said firmly, but not because I'm your sister, because I've earned it. I smiled, recognizing in her words the same determination that had driven me all those years ago. That's exactly why I'm offering you the opportunity. As she left my office, I thought about how life has a way of coming full circle. 15 years ago, I'd been kicked out of my family, told I wasn't good enough. Now I was in a position to help that same family rebuild, not by enabling them, but by showing them a better way. Sometimes the happiest endings don't come from forgetting the past, but from learning from it. From taking broken pieces and building something stronger, something real. And as I watched Amanda return to her desk, immediately diving into preparation for her upcoming interview, I knew we'd all finally learned the most important lesson. True love doesn't protect you from life's challenges, it gives you the strength to face them head on.